everyone. My name is Myrna Haskell. I'm executive editor of Sanctuary Magazine, an online publication for women that empowers and inspires with compelling content. You can find us at sanctuary-magazine.com. Today, my guest is JACELYN. She is a singer-songwriter from Canada who has just released her debut album, Dovetailing, on Friday, October 16th. And actually, she was also a featured artist with our magazine back in July. So welcome, JACELYN, and congratulations to you.
Hi, Myrna, and everyone at Sanctuary. Thank you so much for having me on today. And Cheddar, my cat, is here.
Oh, your cat is with you. I love it. I love it.
He's the one who just knocked over. He wanted to.
Oh my goodness. Well, cats do that, right?
Yeah. Cheddar just knocked over the camera.
So I'm so excited for you. And I wanted to start out about just talking about the journey, because I know we have some listeners out there who are thinking, wow, what a brave woman. Here it's your debut album, and we're in the midst of this international pandemic. So I was just hoping you could talk a little bit about the journey and how you got to where you are now.
I think that's a really interesting way to describe bravery, is that I guess I don't feel brave releasing during a pandemic. I would say I feel scared.
Okay.
I feel the opposite of brave. I feel like the best way to explain it is when you're getting ready to speak in front of the public or sing or kind of let yourself be super vulnerable in front of people and share some ideas that have never been shared before. That's when you feel you have to step up to be brave, so that way you can do it. So I'm feeling a little nervous, and similarly to how you would get on stage in front of a big group of people to release during a pandemic. It's a feeling that I couldn't anticipate because I've never been through a pandemic before, and I'm sure
that's
nobody
like
else
all of
has.
us, right? Oh my goodness, it's been tough. It's been really tough.
It's all very new. Like, I can assume what I think my feelings would be, and then it happened and it's completely different. And I'm to be honest, I'm a little bit, nervous, scared, anxious, all those things. But so far, it's been out for only a few days. I've just been overwhelmed by such amazing things being said about it, and a lot of different people wanting to interview and talk to me about it. And really trying to come into celebration.
So let's talk a little bit about this song choice. It's very diverse, but is there a common thread in the songs? And maybe you want to talk a little bit about the title, Dovetailing, too?
Sure. So the common thread is definitely love and intimacy. And intimacy with not only another person, but also intimacy with the self. Because when we're going through this path of and journey of loving others, we're also going through the path and journey of loving ourselves. And that's how intimacy and love works. So that was definitely a common thread in the album. And we wanted to show a melange of types of love. And you can even, have the love of a girlfriend being like, hey, this is not good for your mental or emotional health. And they speak up and tell you the truth because they love you. And that's like what happens in Kaleidoscope. These are all different types of love that I hope people can resonate with. And the title Dovetailing, it was chosen by my core fan base, actually. I didn't choose the title.
Oh my goodness, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Oh, that's fabulous. I love it. So you did it through input.
I did. I had narrowed it down to, and Amina Figueroa is the producer, which I know you guys know at Sanctuary, because that's how we met.
Yes.
And She's the producer on my album, and I'm so lucky to have such an amazing producer. Amina will be the first to tell you, I wanted it to be open. That's what she wanted it to be. And we'd worked with that title, that it was going to be called Open, because it was sort of my debut and I was opening up. And so
yeah, about your deep feelings, and then hoping it was going to
Mhm.
resonate with your listeners, because there's a, you know, a universal feeling that way, I think, about love, how you're feeling about yourself, your self-esteem. All, we can all relate to that. It's very universal, even though you're personally
Absolutely.
experiencing it.
Absolutely. And I hope that it does give people something to, you know, remember, reminisce on, or look forward to, or whatever it is that they're experiencing. Music kind of helps catapult you into a memory or into some sort of dream state. And
Like
so
nothing else, like
yeah,
nothing else,
like
really,
nothing
right?
else. And when I decided to take a few titles, I won't tell you the third one, because that's actually going to be the name of my next album,
Oh, yay!
because I loved it so
Okay,
much.
don't let it out then.
Yeah, so we
Mum's the
put
word.
3 titles there. We did Dovetailing, Open, and this other title. And we did a poll on a few of the community groups, of some fan core groups. And I named one of the songs Dovetailing, and I thought it was such a really beautiful name. And the definition of the word is to unite harmoniously, to connect, to intertwine. And when you think of dovetailing too, is like 2 doves doing this, right?
Yes.
In order for them to literally be so close that they pass through each other's and sweep by each other and connect this way, look at the space that has to be there every time they come back, right? There has to be that space. And that's sort of what is the song is all about, finding space in intimacy.
Oh, I
Because
love that.
we
Oh,
need
I
that
love that.
space. We need that space to be alone, to be in our own thoughts, in our own mind, in our own wholeness, in order to come back to the relationship and love deeper and be even closer, and to have our paths kind of connect and unite and be harmonious every single time.
You know, that's an extremely strong message you just gave women out there, JACELYN, because lots of times, you know, we're innate nurturers, I think. And so there are many women who get into that sort of spot where they're in a new relationship, they're in love, and they allow the relationship and the person to take over everything about them. And they don't leave that space for self. And I think
Can I
that
get a
there's a
raise
lot
of hands? Who's done that?
Raise your hands, ladies.
Yes. I think that with years of experience and growth, we learn as women that it's actually better to allow space in the relationship to exist, and that nurturing needs to happen to yourself before you can actually truly nurture someone else, right?
Absolutely. I
Think,
tell my daughter this all the time, you know, she's
yes,
still so young. So yeah, I
right.
love that
The way
though.
that I like to think about love and my care for others and being able to do things for other people, I think of it as this beautiful teacup, and it's filled with all my love and all my care and all the things that I want nurturing. And then there's the saucer, and my job is to make sure that this cup is just constantly overflowing. And I have to care for myself enough and love myself enough that all the overflow that goes into the saucer is what's there for you and for other people. But I can't let anybody take the reserves that are in that cup, because that's what keeps things flowing. And that's what I think you're talking about, Myrna, is that when women in particular get into these relationships, some of those things we allowed to kind of hijack our overflowing cup. And not in a negative way necessarily. It's just sort of like you just want to give that much, but when you give too much, you're not allowing yourself to be what you need And
I
therefore,
understand. That's a
Mhm.
very wise comment. You know, you have enough to give others. I think that's a big thing that women need to understand too. There's enough love in all of us that we can love ourselves and love other people and not feel like we're being spiteful or selfish because we're doing that self-care that we need to do. And we're, you know, how are we going to love someone else if we're not in the right headspace and the right physical and emotional health, right? So
Absolutely.
and I
Yeah.
love your visual with the cup. We have a lot of artists, of course, fine artists who follow Sanctuary, and they're going to love that visual. I'm like seeing some of them maybe doing a painting tomorrow on So let me talk a little bit to you about Kaleidoscope. I think it's my favorite on the album. It's definitely one of my favorites, if not the favorite. But I want to pause for just a moment so that listeners can hear a bit from Kaleidoscope.
It's an optical illusion. Is it wrong or right? In a state of confusion, keeps me up all night. I'm a phantom, a shade and a vision, a trait. I've been tricked, I've been fooled, kid play. A mirror of shapes, a blur of distaste, a pipe dream. It's an optical illusion. Is it wrong or right?
Okay, so now talking about the song, what's the inspiration behind it? I do know that you wanted to talk a little bit in this song about mental health issues and difficulties that arise in relationships. So do you want to talk a little bit about the inspiration behind the song?
Absolutely. So this song was one that worked in stages of inspiration. So the original inspiration happened when Amina and I were sitting down at her piano, and I said I sort of wanted to take the inspiration from the Harlem underground hip hop scene, where you would go and you would listen to these amazing jazz cats, and then MCs and hip hop artists would come and freestyle on the jazz music, and it was just breathtaking.
Wow.
So that was the first inspiration, was to create something that had this kind of groove that a jazz singer is almost rapping a bit. And then the next inspiration was I wanted to give Amina the idea of, I wanted the rap to feel like it was in the brain. So it sort of does this kind of like maze-like structure. And for some of you, you might know I'm an actor as well. I started off in professional film and television, and then I went to train in classical theater. And I acted a lot in professional theater. And one of the productions I did was by a playwright called Carol Churchill, and it's called The Skriker. And it's just the most bizarre script. The words don't make sense. They're all like riddles, basically. And so I thought, well, what if we use this riddle-like structure as a kind of anchor to what's happening in the brain, right? And I decided to use a gentleman that I was dating at the time, had somebody in his life, and she was related to him and was upset that I was in that relationship with her father. So I could see she was struggling with a lot of the changes, and things were going on in her head that I don't think she was able to really articulate to her father, other than being upset, right?
Mhm.
And I can only imagine now, looking back with that kind of 2020 vision, as we know happens when we look back onto situations, that I probably could have found even more compassion and understanding for this young girl and what was probably going on in her brain, and in a way her own suffering, right? So
Yeah.
I use music as medicine in a lot of ways for my own self, but also for other people. So I wrote from that place of what it was like to be a young girl experiencing that, and things, as we know, being women, it's like wormholes everywhere, and like bringing back, like, it's insane how intricate our minds can be. And so that's was the first kind of layering of inspiration. And then when we came back to write the rest of it, I had just gone through some stuff with a girlfriend that she had told me about this relationship she was in that was very abusive, mentally abusive, and emotionally abusive. And then I was that friend that was coming in and being like, no, I can't sit here and observe and witness this kind of abuse without trying to talk to you about it. So that's when I knew I wanted to have a female rap artist come on and be like the one that shakes you out of the stuff that's going on up here, to kind of get you to be in the present moment. And it doesn't always work, right? And that's sort of what happens with the song, is that this girl comes in and tries to wake the other girl up, but it just doesn't really work. So
well, that's reality, right? But I'm so glad you brought this up, JACELYN, because, October is National Domestic Violence Month. And so we addressed a lot of these issues in our current issue at Sanctuary. And I think it's a really important message that women support each other in this. And if you think a friend's in trouble in some way,
so much,
that you do give of yourself and try to help her. So that's a really important message. I know, though, that I heard you mention Amina, and of course, the rapper who collaborated on Kaleidoscope, but I'm wondering if we could just talk collaboration, because I know there are some people behind the album who helped you out. Amina, actually, the way I met her was I saw her in person at the Deer Head Inn. And then I saw her perform several times after that. And she was actually a featured artist as well, just as you were, in the magazine. And I developed a relationship with her. And the minute I saw the two of you were working together, I'm like, wow, that's going to be a fabulous combination of girl power. So I'm wondering if you could talk a little bit about the collaboration with the album.
Well, I'm just so grateful for the collaboration experience that I had with Amina in particular, because she was this guiding light, sort of like the light in a lighthouse, just kind of making sure that you don't crash and burn. So she was definitely instrumental in teaching me. I mean, like, she's a mentor, she's a friend, she's a goddess, she's all these things that were wrapped up in this experience. We laughed, we cried, we had healthy heated discussions, because this is your creativity, and you have to fight for you have to fight for songs to go on the album, or fight for them to not leave the album, so there was everything. This was a relationship to create this project together. And it was like two parents with their babies. You're fighting over your children, right? So and the collaboration on Kaleidoscope was phenomenal. And then just the collaboration on going back and forth from like the bare bones of an acoustic version of a song, and then taking it through the arrangement process with her, that was all very new to me. So I am just so happy and so grateful that I had Amina Figurova to kind of guide me through this experience. She was like my shaman of music.
Oh, I love that. My shaman of music. I love that. And she's an acclaimed pianist, and I know, and the instrumentals, on your album are just phenomenal. They really are. It's and your voice is beautiful, and the whole thing together was it's some project. It really is. I mean that.
Thank you. And she allowed me to stretch, because it's not conventional to have an explicit vocal jazz adult contemporary album. So when I explained to people I had a rap artist on my jazz adult contemporary kind of pop album, they were like, what? Even my parent and my mom heard the song, and she's like, when I swore in the song, she turned to me and she's like, I don't like this. No, no, no. Do you know what I mean? And she was so
There's a clean version
fixated
now,
on
I
the
think,
swear
right?
word.
There's a clean version you have now.
Yes, I have a clean version for radio purposes.
Yeah.
But I mean, who has been in mental like trauma or emotional trauma or even physical trauma who doesn't use a swear word?
I know,
sorry.
I know. But
I
she's
would
your
like to
mom,
be
so
introduced.
she has to be your mom, you know?
Exactly. So there were some risks that I was taking with this album, and Amina allowed me to take those risks. You know, some of them I had to fight for, and really, I think that's the process of coming into yourself as an artist, is that you are going to stand up for your art and you're going to follow your gut, even in collaboration.
Yes,
And,
absolutely. And I mean, if you don't take the risks, you can't get to that place that you need to get to, though, right? If you're too safe, your creativity is going to be tamped down to a certain extent, I think. You have to, that's what artists do, right? The best artists, they take those risks, even when they hear other people say, oh, not so sure, right?
Exactly.
And it's just a fabulous fusion, though, of different styles. And I think that's why I particularly do love that song. So I'm glad we had the opportunity to let the listeners hear it a little bit. But I want to ask you about this. So I would love to see you in person. So I'm wondering if you can share any future plans, maybe if there's anything that's going to be in person in 2021, you know, what your situation is moving forward.
Well, of course, it's a lot to do with the pandemic, right? And but I am basically we've got a bunch of things coming out online, content wise, for people to enjoy and kind of carry the album into 2021. And then my hope, my sincere hope, is to actually meet you in person in the United States and tour the album properly, because part of the experience that needs to be finished, it feels only right, is the live presentation of the project, and like truly sharing it with people in person. I think that's the cyclical way of how music works, and live presentation takes the cake, you know? So I plan I'm going to my sanctuary in Costa Rica in 2 weeks. And I'm going to spend about 4 months in Costa Rica, and I'm writing a lot of stuff that's coming out next year as well, but in the latter part of the year. And I'll be booking the tour that we're putting together. And I'm hopeful that, although there are a lot of festivals that are unsure what's going to be happening, they're going to at least do diligence and be able to book the artists, or take artists that some of the shows that were canceled for me this summer will be carrying over till next year. I'm also hosting an award show because the one I won an emerging vocalist of the year, and then they asked if I would host this year, but it got canceled, so they're postponing it to next year. And when you're hosting, you're also doing quite a few live performances.
Oh, that's fabulous.
I'm gonna get to perform kind of a collage of my album. Did I just cut out there for a second?
You did for a second, but it showed your cover, which was great. But I'll have that in here anyway.
That's stress, right? I'm just trying to
I love the cover.
Stuff. So I mean, the main thing is you have a lot of visual artist followers and listeners, and I'm always been inspired by art. I do a lot of live art during my live shows. For music inspires more art. And so during the pandemic, around the time of Kaleidoscope releasing during Mental Health Awareness, I asked 10 visual artists, some I knew, some I did not know, all female visual artists, to pick a song off the album and create a piece of artwork that they were.
I love that. Oh, love that.
And Myrna, what we were able to film and put together I can't talk too much about it on this call because it's too early.
Okay.
But what I'm seeing, what we're editing together, what I experienced with these women, and then it's grown. It was originally just supposed to be 10 women. Now it's almost 20 women, and poetry, dance, tattoo, artwork, like everything that has happened. I'm, coming to terms with being grateful for COVID in a way, because I
probably wouldn't have been able to think of these more
Not at
creative
all.
sort of
Not at all.
weaving in the arts with your music, right? You had time
not
to
like
sort of-
this. Yeah.
Yeah.
The way this, I had planned on doing an art exhibit around the live performance and the gala release party, which would have happened on Friday in Toronto. But it pivoted so many times to then be what it is today. It is so beautiful. It's so healing. It's so inspiring what we were able to do together, and how it's grown into so much more than JACELYN Dovetailing. It's grown into this like, let's heal the leaders of these artistic communities so that they can go back and have the energy to help others heal and lift them up. And that's the movement that's happened through art. And I can't wait to start showing that in January 2021 is when that stuff's going to drop.
Oh, that's really good. And you have to let Sanctuary Magazine know about
I
that
will.
so we can blast it. And,
Yeah.
I just have to say, well, number one, thank you so much for joining me today. But number two, you and other artists, how you've helped the general community, particularly when we were completely shut down at the beginning of the pandemic and everything. I mean, the arts, that's what they do, right? They lift. And so thank you for doing what you do. And it's just a pleasure having met you over the last several months. And I am there when there's an in-person performance, JACELYN, I promise, particularly if you come to the States, although I'm not too far from some of these Canadian spots that I know you perform in. But anyway, it's just truly been a pleasure. And I wish you the best of luck with this album. I know it's going to do phenomenally. You have a beautiful voice, and it has a wonderful message too throughout. And so thank you for joining me.
Thank you so much, Myrna, for having me. And the last good news I will leave you with is, for the first 2 weeks before the album released, we made the jazz charts most added album both weeks in a row. And we're
terrific.
on the third week, and it's just been out for a few days, and the radio trackers are in the United States, New World and Jazz. They're just really, really happy with how this album is being received, and that we're already getting on that chart every week. So it's so exciting for me to be able to.
So the karma is right there. It's like the force is with you. I'd like to end, as I always do, though, by wishing all of our listeners and our readers good health, happiness, and continued inspiration. Take care.
You came around